All right, everybody, welcome to our session today on emotional intelligence. My name is Taneshia Singleton, and I am your Hemsley Fraser facilitator for today. If you're not familiar with Hemsley Fraser, they are a global leadership and development organization that has been providing services just like the ones we're having today for over the past 30 years. I have been in the training and education sector now over 20 years, and I'm super excited that you guys have decided to develop your emotional intelligence with me today. So we are going to pick up with the second pillar on managing your emotions. So we've already talked about being self-aware. So now we're going to talk about managing your emotions. And one way to think about managing your emotions is using a model we call the ABC. A is the action that brought about an emotion. B is the belief you have about that action. And C are the consequences of your actions about that action. So let me give you an example. Let's say I am trying to get to work and I'm behind someone driving extremely slow. I can't go as fast as I want to go, and I'm getting frustrated. The emotion I'm feeling is frustration. I'm believing that person is probably distracted. That person doesn't even need to be on the road. This is what I believe about that person. So because of that belief, when I see them, I'm trying to give them the evil eye, or I might throw up my hands like, what are you doing? Why aren't you paying attention? And that's not the best way to commute to wherever you're getting to go, right? So can someone give me a thumbs up if they have been that person? I'm not proud, but I have, or at least been in the car with a person who has been frustrated just like that. Right. So now I have a question for you guys. If you could come off mute and let me know what's a different belief you could have about that person or about that action that will lead to a less stressful consequence. So you can either raise your hand and come off mute, or you can go ahead and just unmute yourself and you can share what's a different belief we can adopt. Andrea,
Hello.
hello.
I think that you could probably think that maybe the person is just learning to drive. Maybe they're new drivers, they're inexperienced. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. Or maybe
Absolutely.
they've got
That's good.
bad news and they're distracted by that. And, you know,
Right. And so by adopting that belief, that's so good. Thank you so much, Andrea. By adopting that belief, you won't even think to be like, what are you doing? Or you won't give him the evil eye. My son just started driving. I'm hoping he's following the speed limit. So there's no way I'm going to give him the evil eye. I'm like, oh, he's going to get to work safely. That's awesome. Or even somebody who may have been just received some bad news, you're not going to look at them like that. So you're going to have a much more calm and collected commute to work, right? Thank you so much for sharing that, Andrea. So let's go ahead and give this a try. We're going to think about some common triggers. When you hear the word emotional trigger, what do you think? So using the chat, go ahead and let me know what thoughts come to mind. Like, what do you think emotional trigger means? And I'll give you guys a few moments to type. And so if you're not sure where the chat is at the bottom of your screen. There's a little chat bubble. If you click it, your chat panel will populate on the right-hand side and you can share, right, reacting. Thank you so much, Stephanie, reacting. It's something that could set you off. Andrea says something someone says or does that makes us feel strong emotions. Right, exactly. Thank you so much. So when you have that happening, you have to think, when you're thinking about being set off, you're thinking, okay, what's going on here? How do I get control of my emotions? What's setting me off, right? So we can identify these. And so we are going to actually look at several different common triggers and identify the ones that really trigger us, really the ones that we see within ourselves. So again, if you look at the top of your screen, you will see you are viewing Tanisha's screen. Click on view options, slide down to annotate and click on the green ticker and go ahead and check off any of the emotional triggers that you have in yourself. And let's see which ones that we all share that are in common. Not being understood. I'm going to go ahead and tick being ignored. That's one of my triggers, feeling excluded, lack of respect, and feeling unsafe, dishonesty, right. So when you guys feel these emotions come up from these emotional triggers, it's great that you can now take the time to think and say, you know what, this is triggering me. Now what do I do? right? So we talked about being self-aware, and now we're talking about managing our emotions. How can I be more self-aware so that I can identify this emotion and then have a different outcome? So we're actually going to have a little activity right now where we're going to share with each other. We're not going to go into a breakout room. We're a small setting. We're in a small group. So I'm going to go ahead and clear these annotations real quickly. I'm going to go ahead and ask you guys to come off mute and share a recent event, something that happened recently that really gave you some strong emotions. And now we can go back and look at, well, what did you believe about that event? And then maybe as a group, we can say, well, what if we adopted this belief? We can have this kind of outcome. So would anybody like to share an example of when they've been emotionally triggered? And then we can work through it together as far as changing that belief. Okay, Stephanie.
Um, so one of the biggest issues that I have with my coworker is communication. I will I will convey an idea or a message, and he completely misunderstands me and doesn't. And so communication is a big issue,
Right.
and that's
So
really frustrating.
right? So you're feeling frustrated. So the trigger is being misunderstood, right? So if
Yeah.
your trigger is being misunderstood, what can we choose to believe about your coworker? Like, do you believe that he just doesn't care? He's not reading through your email in its entirety, or he's listening to go ahead and speak instead of listening to understand? Like, what do you believe about your coworker that's making you frustrated or having this feeling, this
Uh,
eruptive emotion?
a lot of those things, I believe that, um he doesn't understand. I don't know if it's because he chooses not to. Sometimes it's hard because even though you don't want to believe it, sometimes you feel that that other person is deliberately misinterpreting what you're saying. But at the
Mhm.
end of the day, both of y'all are kind of under the same tent, and it's not reasonable to necessarily think that, because at the end of the day, you're supposed to be working towards a common goal. And so you have to think, well, are they, would they intentionally sabotage the entire situation?
Right. Right. So
That's not true, I don't think.
right. So before I give what I think could go on, would anybody on our team, either Yvette or Andrea, like to just chime in and give her an example of something else she can adopt about what she believes about her coworker?
Um, I think that looking at situations and people and not taking them personally, um, just understanding that we're all different and um, we can only process information and understand things based on our experiences. And so if we don't have similar experiences, then we may not view things the same way. And so um, I think I think that Stephanie is absolutely right. It does seem really unreasonable that this person is purposely trying to misunderstand her, you know, but certainly we could feel that way in the moment. But I think just looking at that person and understanding that it's really not a personal attack. If we can look at it like that, then that might be helpful.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Andrea. Right. It doesn't have to be personal. And Andrea kind of led us right into our next slide. And we'll come back and share some other examples, but you can challenge your belief. So Stephanie, you can challenge that belief and say, is it really true that he's trying to sabotage, even though we're under the same umbrella with the same goal? You know, what evidence do I have that he is trying to ruin this project, right? Or you can also think, what is this belief costing me? Is it costing me my peace? Is it costing me my creativity? Because right now my emotion is frustration and distress. So my creative juices can't even flow the way I need them to flow working on this project because most of my emotional energy is feeling offensive or offended or, whatever that case may be. So again, it's deciding to believe something different. Like maybe he really doesn't understand, or maybe he just is misunderstanding the steps that we have laid out, or he's never had, like Andrea said, he's never had experience in this space with this exact set of details or whatever. I don't know, but does that help at all, Stephanie?
Yes, it does.
It does. All right, so I'm going to slip right back to that last slide again, just in case anybody else has an example they'd like to add as far as, identifying the trigger and now changing the belief. Andrea?
I recently had, oops, sorry.
No
I'm trying
worries.
to figure out the, I'm sorry.
We love those reactions. It's
I'm
okay.
figuring out the reactions. Okay. I recently had a situation where we're in a staff meeting and it's full of staff and there's a time for questions. And I raise my hand. And although I'm kind of in the back of the room, there are plenty of people that are also in the back of the room. There are plenty of people back where I am that have their hands up as well. But I never get called on. And it becomes very frustrating. It feels very much like I am ignored, or maybe even that what I have to say isn't good enough, isn't valid, won't make a difference. And that just kind of makes me not want to participate at all.
Right. So your reaction to that trigger is, my hands are off the wheel. I don't want to participate.
Exactly.
But it doesn't make you feel good. Like having those
No.
beliefs do not feel good, right? So we have a choice. I know my trigger is being ignored or being overlooked. And my usual reaction is to take my hands off the wheel and just not participate. But again, that's not beneficial, even to your group or to yourself. So what other belief can I adopt about that situation? So we can go back to that other slide and think, is it really true? Do I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this person is ignoring me or isolating me? We don't know, right? I mean, we haven't asked, have we?
I have not asked.
Right.
Mhm.
So what evidence do I have? So maybe you could say, well, my evidence is every meeting,
Every meeting.
he does
Yes.
not call on me. And that can feel like some pretty solid evidence. But it also could be that, maybe he's thinking, you know what, Andrea has the best answers. She's going to give it away. She's already developed. I need to develop these other people. Me believing that, you know what, he already knows I'm the star, that I've got it together. It's evident by the product that I put out every week or every time we meet,
Mhm.
that he's letting somebody else get the attention they need or ask the questions they have because I'm where I need to be. That's
Right.
something that me personally, I may adopt just to feel better about it. Okay, I already know he's not going to call on me or she's not going to call on me, but it's because my stuff is together, and even though I know I want to contribute and share, I just need to give room for others to share. It may not be true. I don't know, but it feels better than he's ignoring me or she's ignoring me. I don't know.
Absolutely. That
But
does feel much better.
right. So then my behavior is different. So since I feel like, well, you know what? He's letting other people get a chance. So when it's time for us to do work or work on the project, I still contribute. I may have a little like, well, I'm gonna let them start off and then I'll add mine later. Because if I start off, everyone's gonna follow suit. Maybe I'm a super leader and everyone will just let me lead and not participate. So I'm gonna let them have their contributions and then I'll add mine at the end or whatever. So it
Well,
just
I actually love the thought of that much more than I don't have any value and nobody wants to hear what I have to say. That feels much better. Thank you.
Hi, you're welcome. And so another way of even thinking about our beliefs is if we work this program backwards. So sometimes I like to think, what if I was on a reality TV show? What would I be proud to see my reaction be, or at least not embarrassed? Maybe not my proudest moment, but definitely not my worst moment. So I may think, you know what? what do I want the consequence to be or the outcome to be? I want it to be that I still participate in this meeting. Or going back to my driving situation, I want it to be when everyone sees this clip of the reality TV show, they see me decide to keep sipping my coffee as I drive 2 miles an hour to work, or whatever the case may be. So because I want that outcome, I want us to participate, or I want to have a calm commute to work, I'm going to go back to my belief. I'm going to believe that is a brand new driver who is driving safely. Or I'm going to believe that is my grandma, and there's no way I'm giving my grandma the evil eye as I'm driving by. Or, you know what I'm saying? So I'm going to change my belief about that action so that I have the outcome that I want, right? So just being aware, you guys just deciding, you know what, I'm going to identify my emotion, I'm going to identify the trigger, and now I know I can change my belief about that. That will make your day, your commute, your meetings so much more successful, so much more insightful, because you're operating with more self-management, more self-control, and more emotional intelligence. And that brings us to our next pillar, which is social management, managing yourself in social environments. So I also want to thank you for your time. We will meet again tomorrow at the same time, same place. Thank you again.